Okay, we're live. Happy days.
Hey, hey.
Hello, stream. We're gonna wait like just a couple minutes because normally there's like a 5-minute warm-up welcome timer.
Yeah.
Before we start streaming. But as I was telling these boys earlier, my main computer just kind of shit the bed, and so I had to take it into the IT store like yesterday, and I haven't gotten it back. So I've got my backup computer set up, but I have like a bare bones OBS set up. So we're missing some of the bells and whistles in terms of the OBS setup, but we're still streaming. And let us know. I haven't like really properly configured like audio levels and stuff, so let us know if the music's too loud or someone's too loud. But without further ado, hello. Today, PN3 review stream. Finally, we got around to it like almost a month later, but we're doing it. This stream is covering just the bottom half of the tournament, so from 21st to 12th. The next stream will be next Friday, same time, and that'll be covering 11th to 1st. And today, joining me for the first time is Coolbeans. Thank you, sir. How you going?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. Keen, excited.
Happy days. And also joining me is Mr. Nickel, joining me once again. How you going, bro?
I'm good. As I was describing. Tired, but that's okay. It's all good. Trying to remember back to PN3. It's so far long ago, but my brain's already on like not a go at you. My brain is already on Nats now.
Oh, for sure.
Training that's like the training releases and everything that's happened. So this is gonna be a memory test for us a little bit, and I apologize.
A trip down memory lane. No, I really wanted to do this earlier, but I've just had like a lot of personal things that have just come up, and they all happen at once. And so all of my attention has been devoted to that, but we finally made this happen. And like before long, we're going to be talking about a prediction stream, like in a matter of weeks. So, stay tuned for that. But yeah, chat. Let us know how the audio levels are for everyone. If someone's really quiet or someone's really loud or the music's too loud. Cool. I don't know. I don't think I've got anything else to say other than
Let's just get started.
Let's just get started. Yeah. These streams always take so bloody long, so let's just get stuck in. So, just as a little reminder of how the stream will work, I'm going to go through the teams from 21st to 12th. We're going to have a look at their solo ladder stats. We're going to have a look at some team graph worm things that Runt has done up for me from the Fireboard. So thank you very much, Runt. That was meant to be one of these, but I did a one-handed one like this. Anyway, and we'll cover things that the team did well, things that the team maybe didn't do so well, and then maybe some points of improvement for them in their last few weeks of training. We got like 7 weeks until nationals, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So, something like that, yeah.
You know, hopefully for some people this will be informative to for your training going forward. But for most of us, it'll just be a bit of a laugh, just kicking it back and reminiscing on good old PN3. Benny's telling me, yep. So we'll get right into it before Benny's attention span loses us. Okay, bear with me 1 second. Share screen.
While you pull that up, I'm just going to commit to the next time you get me on this. I'm going to have a fancy studio and I'm going to have a fancy mic like what you guys. What is this?
Yeah, he's missing out. Usually you're flexing with like the best looking camera, right? This time
I think
it's
okay. It's this stream though with the best camera.
Coolbeans most certainly has the best camera setup. That is awesome. We got that bird's eye view. That's sick. All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah,
super ready.
Super ready. Cool. So in 21st place, we had your team, Coolbeans. We had Olympus.
Yeah.
Down 4 spots. Down 4 spots from predictions. And on the team, we had Wildcard, Dart, Bluely, Coolbeans, Messiah, and worthy. Also, thank you, Shifter, for the photos, and thank you, NSWLSA, for allowing us to use the photos as well. Thank you very much. Coolbeans, what have you got to say for yourself?
Probably not the best we could have done, right? Yeah, we tanked hard. We dropped like crazy. We tried some new things out and tried some new strategies that we tried at the training comp, and they did not work as well as we thought they would. And then we just bottom tracked like crazy.
So they worked well in the training comp and then not during pre-nats, or they didn't work well the whole time?
It worked as well as we thought it would against those level of teams, because we're versing very high level teams that training comp. And then we're like, oh, we can just do it against lower level teams. And then clearly didn't. Yeah, I think we underestimated what we're going up against a little bit, and other teams caught up very quickly. Like, they adapted really well. Pre-nats 2, we used to play a very adaptive game. Like, we'd react to what other teams were doing. But I think we stopped doing that a little bit, and we stuck a little bit more to our strategy. And then, yeah, I think that's what was our downfall.
Yeah, I think having reactive strategies is like all well and good, but I think there's a time and a place for them, right? Like, if you're
Of course
playing reactive strategies from the get-go, I find it can be hard to maybe get an early lead. And if you don't have an early lead, then it gets to a point where, like, you kind of need to start making some pretty drastic decisions, right? Whereas, like, the team that just commits to, like, we're going to do this and we're just going to, like, big dick the start of this game, they'll start off with a lead. And then from there, they can play reactive. And I think playing reactive is good for, like, maintaining a lead, right? But it's, like, less good for trying to go from not winning to get on top.
Yeah.
That's at least my, like, general thoughts about it. But yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's good that you guys have identified it as well, right? Like,
yeah. We also, another thing that we sort of identified was, you watch any game we play and we're like in the lead by a base or two, and then for most games, and then up to like minute 6-7, we just flatline like crazy. So we need to fix that up. You'll see it in our average score.
Average worm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Actually, we can flick to that now.
Where are you? I think what we're seeing, what we're talking about here, though, we're going to see this a lot in this bottom half of the comp that we had, which is that balancing act between reactive strategies, or going in thinking, oh, we're going to do this, and if this happens, we're going to do this, or like. And there's a balancing act to be struck, especially at the bottom half of the competition, where sometimes just sticking to your guns is potentially the more efficient way to get points, which will net you more competition points. Not to say always win, but will get you more competition points in the lower half. So it's good. I think we're going to see this as a bit of a theme, because that's something I noticed on the teams and something my team did as well. So yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see exactly what you're talking about. Coolbeans, where you got a pretty decent start, like amongst the top starts, and then it hits that hits the 2 minutes, and it's like, and then it's like, and it's like,
yeah.
You bounce back like okay, I guess, but
we also, something that really screwed us in our our like Elim game was the Canberra C team dumped to us, and we just didn't counter it correctly at all. Which, you know, if you guys are trying to shake that reputation, I mean,
hey, look, they had one mission
to dump.
They had one mission in their own eyes.
Or to beat us?
No, just not get a spoon. Like, genuinely.
That was our goal too, but
so
yeah, no, but they did it really well. Like, they dumped to us and we fed them like crazy. Like, it's yeah.
Would you say? So you say you didn't respond to it properly. Would you say you guys had a strategy going into that game, and then in spite of the dump, you kept trying to stick to that and didn't react to the dump properly? Is that what you mean?
We got dumped on a few times, and we had team chats about it, and we're like, how do we counter this? And so we're like, all right, if it's just easy, if we get dumped to us, we do this. And we got dumped on again, and we tried to do it, but like our communication through the arena fell down.
Sure.
And then, yeah, So we tried. We didn't stick to the same strategy. We did try and have a counter, but it just didn't work.
Yeah,
So.
that's the perfect time, like a perfect example of like when the balance between doing what you planned on and being reactive is the case, right? Like if you go into a game just wanting to do what you planned on, and then someone does something really drastic like a dump, and you keep trying to just stick to your guns, like
it's not gonna
that's when the dump can work. Like you actually have to go, okay, like we need to address this, so we need to react to what they've done, and we need to do something different. But like Nickel said, it is a balancing act of knowing when to do which one.
Dump. And I was going to say a lot of shade is thrown, especially in the memes and all of that jazz around the Canberra dump. But dumping is one of those ones that does happen, and you can't. A lot of the time, you can't just soldier on through it. You have to actually move your approach to the game.
Yeah.
If someone changes a 3-2, 4-2, 2-3, whatever it might be, you can sometimes sort of just knuckle down and do what you plan to do initially. But a dump just kind of throws that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, we were talking a lot about maybe some things you guys didn't do well. You guys weren't in 21st for the whole tournament, so what are some things that did go well for you throughout the tournament?
I feel like we were pretty good on pack. We for a lot of games, we had a very consistent pack lead, which is good. Like our defense had good pack, our attack had good pack. That's sort of what seemed to be the constant upside to everything.
Yeah.
Even if we're struggling for bases, we just knew we were 5k ahead on pack sometimes for most games. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see like here that like all of your tag ratios are like they're not 100 outside of Bluely.
Yeah.
But they're pretty damn close, right? And so that probably means like you're like doubling with someone most of the time, right? And so at least you're getting like 110 points every 8 seconds or whatever, and that's still points, right? And yeah, we can kind of see with the bases that it was pretty much only Wildcard and Dart getting a lot of the bases. Like Messiah got some, you got like a little bit, but and I guess Worthy got a little bit. But did you lose many games because you were down a base or two?
Yeah, many. We were very one base off points in third for so many games.
How's the it'll be interesting to see as you the different distributions of players there. Obviously, you've got 3 players there which seem to be consistently getting bases.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see in what config that happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Dart and Wildcard were our like lead attacks, and then Bluely, Messiah, and myself were defense a lot, and that didn't really change except for very late game, which I think ties into that us getting cut off at 7 minutes from points. Yeah, so I think those two are related, and
sure. Nickel, did you have any observations about Olympus when you versed them? Did you verse Olympus much?
We're trying to think. I think we came up against it a few times, but we kind of bounced back and forth. I think as the cascades went. I think someone just put it in the chat, and I think part of it is that it's that loss of cohesion.
Yeah.
Which is it's reassuring to see when you come up against it. It happens sort of midway through the game. But I'm just trying to think. I don't think we played you that many times. Someone's going to call me out. Yeah. No, you played like 70
games. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
But
I don't think we played each other heaps.
It happened a couple of times, I think. But then I think we sort of started to separate out a little bit towards the back end.
Yeah. Happy days. Well, Coolbeans, did you want to shout out any of the players on your team, someone that you think deserves like an MVP of the team?
Run's going to back me up on this. Bluely's the GOAT. Bluely, you just stick him under a base and he stays there the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, 118% tag ratio is pretty good.
Yeah,
good on him.
And then he gets shot out and then just runs back in for that denial. He finished most games with most denials.
Oh yeah, good man. Like 1.3 average as well. That's sick.
Yeah. That's you can see that the impact there is cool.
Yeah, cool. Nickel, could I ask you to choose an MVP for this team, or would you just be you'd be
I'd be throwing
bursting a blood vessel trying to remember?
mean. I think I can't think of like I don't have any like standout there that I sit there going, oh yeah, that was I remember that from the play in the game. I mean, well played to the people that do defend the whole game. Again, we've talked about it before, but it's a pretty thankless role in some cases. So those that do it deserve props because they're not the people that come out and get the kudos over getting such a high score or whatever it is. So power to those players that do it and do it well and do it without complaining.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, if I was just to look at the stats, I would have to choose Bluely as well, like being the only one positive on the team, and also the denial average is like that's a very nice denial average. So I'm happy to jump on the Bluely hype train. Good man. Is there any last things that either of you want to say about Olympus before we move on?
I think probably the only thing I'd comment is probably no one probably expected this.
Yeah.
I think it's the key thing.
We didn't.
So, we haven't analyzed it a huge amount, but would be analyzed in the sense of the mental afterwards.
Yeah,
it's a big part of it.
It was rough. We were having a very rough later half of the comp, so I don't think that helped it. Just got to keep our mental in check.
Yeah, better to have done it then in a pre-nats though.
Of course,
to be able to catch it at nationals. So. Hopefully you guys, if you do take something out of that potentially tempers if you have a bad run of games in the internationals. So
yeah.
Happy days. Well, it's only up from Wooden Spoon, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do worse.
you got this. No, I think as long as you be in right headspace about like moving forwards and training and like fixing problems and stuff, like I'm sure you guys will do fine because I think you guys
we know our shits and we know where to improve, so yeah, happy
days. All right, moving on to 20th place we have Tag Your It, up one from predictions. So on the team we had Albury, Lamabat, Deimos, Lachlan, Nivier and Hamtaro. Nico, I believe you're taking the lead on this one. So, what have you got to say? What did this team do good?
So, I think this is a team that has, and I don't mean to like kind of perpetuate the stereotype, but has done a very Canberra thing, where statistically speaking, they weren't predicted to do well, but they took games off people they had no right to.
Yeah, they had hands this comp.
And this is something we've seen other Canberra teams do as well, which is just weird. Like they're willing to play a little bit outside the box. It probably comes from playing in Canberra and the sort of style of play that we have here in Canberra, which means as a relatively immature team in the sense of like, or from an experience point of view, they're willing to do things that younger teams might not be willing to, and I feel like that will occasionally net them these wins or a second where they have absolutely no right to. I think something interesting here, and again we see it with a lot of Canberra teams, that tag ratio across the board isn't great comparatively speaking to say Olympus that we've just looked at, and yet they've come away with just enough wins to push that over the line there. So I think I'm super proud of them. They wanted to come in and do a not get the wooden spoon. Noting that this isn't a nationals team. This is a hodgepodge team, half nationals or partially nationals, and some very old hands in the case of Lamabat and Odur.
Ancient hands, fossil hands.
They haven't been around for a better part of that. Well, that's
since 2016 for both of them. Yeah.
This is a few players' first like sort of comp at this level, besides a few Canberra comps, right?
Yeah, and I think for them more than anything else is the takeaway was they didn't break. They got hammered more than their fair share perhaps, and they kept on playing. And I thought that was really good. I think that's really good. They split the bases pretty well. You look at those base statistics are pretty nice as well. You got raw score coming out of Odur and Lamabat happens to have done an amazing denies and bases. So it seems to be everywhere in the map. Maze.
Well, yes, as someone has pointed out in the chat, Ardur, I did want to highlight Ardur specifically just for a moment because in one of the round robin games, my team Aftershock was going in, and we were kind of like, let's go get some big scores this game. And then Mikey and I rock up to this base, and Ardur like single-handedly just like sent me to like the Shadow Realm, bro. I think he got like you can see it in the Nemesis stats that Twinkles posted the other day, but he was I think he got me like 7 to 9 tags in a row unanswered.
Wow.
Yeah, he put Mikey and I in the bin. He might have even got a denial or 2 on me as well. So I do have to shout that out. That was a humbling moment for sure. I was like, man, this Ardur guy's not been around for a while, we'll be okay. And then proceeded to put me in the bin. So yeah, I do have to shout that out and eat some humble pie along the way.
Yeah. And this is all with also with losing competition points because of something we're not going to go into in any people have mentioned it in the chat, but yeah. And again, they had probably one of the strongest teams mentally I think we saw at the competition, and I love them for that. Can we pull the average score back, because I think this would be a really interesting one because okay. So you wouldn't necessarily think it, would you?
Yeah.
So
was Taguret in last place for most of the tournament, and then on the last day they climbed? They climbed the spot? Is that what happened?
Pretty common.
They had a good first day. We've got a few of them in the chat, so you can confirm, guys. I'm pretty sure they had a pretty decent first day, and then they dropped a lot, and then they climbed back up. I think so. They took some games off where they really just shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Odura's got a comment in the chat saying this was as much as anything else about an experience for the newer players.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I guess it's hard, knowing. Are any of these players returning for nationals? You said half of them, roughly. Which
no, so not for this one. Nibier is heading back with the Kelpies, and that is it.
Okay, sure.
We might see Deimos or Lachlan potentially coming for a side event because we're quite close. But
sure.
3 of them are staff members of mine, and Odur and Lama we're working on them. They'll be back next year. That's what we're telling everybody.
Hopefully it'd be good to see him back. Well, obviously with that in mind, it's kind of hard to talk about maybe some points of improvement going forwards. Yeah. Well, actually, before we move on, Coolbeans, have you got anything any experiences about this team? Obviously, they managed to give you the boot in that last game.
Yeah. No, I'm sure they surprised a lot of people, and they surprised us with how well they went. They picked up the packs really good. Being H Pro players, they just picked up H2 like that. They put us in the bins. They got their stuff together, and like Nickel said, with that mental of losing comp points, and just obviously being a team of that caliber and going up against some really high level teams in the round robin, there's a really good result for them, and so they should be proud.
Oh, happy days. Nicely said.
Yeah.
Nice guy, Coolbeans. Good man. Are there any points of improvement for this team? Obviously, or maybe less for the team, but for the individuals going forwards? Or I don't know. It's kind of hard again because they're not actually going to be a returning roster. But
I think my big one, and it comes back to that mental game again, right? The play is going to be very different because they're going to be with different sets of players, right? But if they can think back to this tournament and how they mentally dealt with the losses and things like that, and they can bundle that up and keep that, and understand what that feels like. So if they come back and be it this year or next year, and they go through a rough patch of games and they can hold on to that sort of that fun that they came out of these games with, that'll serve them so well.
Yeah.
Any of them come back. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, if they keep that mental going into Nats, like just have fun with it and do well, it's huge.
Yeah. And I guess looking from a stats perspective, I mean, Ibo's actually dropped it in the chat as well that none of their stacks are actually like, they're not nearly as bad as like stats we've seen from other teams like down at this end of the tournament. Like no one, like the lowest tag ratio being 70% is like, it's not terrible. Yeah, it's not that awful. It's not that. It's so that's like a really good sign. Obviously, like you want to be aiming for that like 100%. And if they can even get like a little bit closer to that, start hitting those 90% tag ratios by like, the times you get caught out transitioning between walls, like limiting that, using more panels in your jewels so you're not just taking jewels in the open, whatever it is, like doing all these little 1%er things, they can increase that tag ratio, get it a little bit closer to like that 90% mark. Like that's especially for like the defenders and stuff. That'll be decent.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I'll get each of you to pick a standout player from this team. Nickel, you can go first, bro.
And Odura's in the chat, and I'm sure Lamabat will be somewhere. And I love you too for what you did for this team. But my kudos goes out to the players that were here for the first time. If I had to pick an MVP, I would go Nivier or Joe. She's been incredible. Her commitment to this sport since she started has been incredible, and keep that mental energy. She's obviously coming back from nationals, so kudos to MVP to all the new players who came in and copped a fairly harsh tournament for their first entry into competitive play. Sure. But MVP for Nivier to take that how much she's dived into the sport, including this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Coolbeans?
I don't want to copy you, but I was also going to say Nivier. Like, no matter what they score, she just comes out of every game with a massive smile on her face. And like, I did so well. Like, yeah, it's hard to not, yeah.
It's hard. It's very hard not to smile with her. So.
Yeah, of course. It's infectious.
Yeah. I'm going to break the mold just because I still have night terrors about Ardeur destroying me in blue base. And I'm going to go with Ardeur. He's my sleep paralysis demon currently. Yeah, well done, bro. Good to see you back, and we hope to see you back once again. Not just Ardeur, but yeah, all of the players on this team. And we'll see Nivier soon. Any last things we want to say before we move on?
Nah, all good.
We keep dumping, easy. I guess. It wins.
Hey, wins when it matters. All right. In 19th place, we had Illiterates. So on the team, we had Wolfie, Exile, Pogsley, Pendragon, SSG, and Panicking. Up one from predictions. And Coolbeans, you said you got some things to say. So
yeah,
say them.
So yeah, I don't have too many good things to say, which I don't know is a good thing to start off with.
No,
they
let
felt when they were playing well, they felt like they had some really good strong attacks. And then we just couldn't crack their base sometimes. So when they do something right, they do it really well. They dumped a fair bit as well, which once again screwing us over because we can't hold that off. They did that really well. Like they got insane pack off of us. But sometimes they felt a little bit disjointed, like in that dump. Like it wasn't a coordinated dump. It just was kind of go wreak terror, which worked. So I guess you could spin that as a good thing. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Sure.
Disjointed was almost the words out of my mouth, and I was going to say that because that's what this team felt like, almost two separate teams.
Yeah.
And the defense, while strong, wasn't picking up the points, and I think the statistics kind of show that when you look at the numbers here. And I hadn't seen these, but I was just thinking their attack felt strong, but it was only a couple of them that felt strong. The rest of them felt quite hard to get through occasionally in defense, but you could just sit on the outside and shoot them, right? So how much impact that had on the game? They didn't quite marry those two sides of the team up. That said, they were quite difficult to get into bases occasionally. Like once they broke, it was a bit easier. But coming back and having a fairly heavy defense and going, oh, this is a pain in the ass to get through.
Yeah.
And vice versa with the attack, being able to punch through bases, and that we saw that happen both as refs and watching other people's games as well as against us. So, but it just didn't feel like it quite married up. I don't know. Like we could probably dig into the statistics of it a little bit. I'm intrigued. I should be looking at it. I'd be intrigued to see what their average scores. I suspect it's going to be a bit of a spike and then flattens out a little bit. Did I get that right? Kind of. Plays towards the end.
They're competitive in the first minute for sure, and then they start to kind of drop off a bit, and it picks back up. Picks up again.
Yeah.
I guess a bit of a roller coaster for these guys. As Pendragon has pointed out in the chat, I think talking a little bit about that disjointedness of the team is that it was comprised of two teams, two Adelaide Nationals teams. So we had a combination of players from Aegis and Aces, and they might have had one training session together. So I guess that was a contributing factor.
Their skills felt good. Pack on pack, really hard to beat. It's just that team cohesion I felt was what let them. That's what they can improve.
Yeah, sure. Nickel, did you have any other observations about illiterates when you versed them, good or bad?
We've played them a bunch, I think, back and forth as we kind of did a bit of a climb. I think whether or not I wonder whether or not I don't know whether it's a recommendation because I don't know if I saw them enough. But two questions: is this the team that we're going to see at Nationals, or is it still two different teams and we're going to see these guys split up again?
Yeah. So if I go back to the thing,
right, so that's probably a simple question.
Wolfie, Pendragon, SSG, Panicking are Aegis, and then Pogsley and Exile are on Aces. So two separate teams.
Yeah, okay. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they go. If you go Exile, and if we take Exile and Pogsley out for just a moment, I think it's going to be important to see Wolfie or the team kind of help get those other people through bases as well, so they can that strong defense. They can sort of not I'm going to say lean on the strong defense, but that strong defense can shine because they've got some bases under their belt as well.
Whenever I saw their attack, Wolfie was playing very solo. So does he help his other attackers through a base, or do they play very separately, very disjointed?
I think, when they are committing to an attack, I think they're together. I think they, from what I've seen in trainings and stuff, there is a lot of strategies they've been playing around with, where there will be someone, one individual at a base, doing sometimes it looks like a brick wall type thing. So just leaving one player there to keep the defense busy and hopefully get some tags. So maybe there's a bit of that. Wolfie was playing the mid position for this team, so he was kind of running around everywhere a bit. So you would have seen him by himself, but I still think as a mid, it's not about playing by yourself. It's about playing with you're either committing to playing with your defense, or you're committing to helping your attack. If you just kind of at a base by yourself, the value of the mid is significantly less. So yeah, no, for
there's
sure.
A couple of comments. So there's a couple of comments in the chat saying that there was not a lot of training together, and perhaps this is actually indicative of making sure as a team. And I'm not having a go at illiterates here at all, but as a team, training together is important. It's something that we And for some of these lower teams, or any team actually, who went to the pre-nats, but not in their full nats configuration, it's going to be interesting. And those early days of training and early days of round robin are going to be telling for those teams. And for those that are newer, who you are on a team together, it's okay. Use round robin a bit as that training ground. When you come to nationals, it's a long tournament, and it does a world of good getting just games under your belt as teams or combinations that you intend to take in further. So something to consider for people who are going to pre-nats and worried about heading into nationals without maybe playing with their team as much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one thing I will say is it feels like sometimes at least like watching them and then also like seeing them because I mean it is like a mixed team, but it was 4 players from Aegis, right?
Yeah.
And I think they still kind of felt like they were playing like an Aegis game. It feels like sometimes they're trying to do too much at once, or they're trying to do too many like little intricate strategy things, but I think they would get a lot of mileage out of committing to more standard stuff and really polishing that up. Obviously there's a time and place for like, finding those little like micro strategy things that you do in games, but I think my own thoughts is that I think they would get a lot of mileage from polishing up their normal setups and stuff, and making little iterations on that. Yeah, for sure. That being said, who was your MVP for this team? I know who my MVP was. I think chat knows who the MVP was for Illiterates as well.
I'm going to say Panicking. He dropped a 10k game right before their final game. And I also talking to a few people. He sent a few people into the bin from what I've heard. So rising star, Panicking.
Okay.
Yeah. Nicole, who's your goat?
I was going to say, just got to pull that trigger that many times every game. I was going to say the tag ratios are okay down the bottom for SSG and Panicking, but you've got to pull the trigger more. Look, I was going to lean towards Wolfie, and I know it's sort of obviously top stats, but getting through bases, but also getting denies in there as well, I think is an important factor. I think there, and Pogsley is a close there as well with some pretty good statistics from that. So maybe the line there is sort of just cool. You can do it for yourself. Now let's get other people through it, or get other people up to the same things. How are you doing it? Let's teach the rest of the team how to do it as well.
Yeah, sure. My goat is Panicking as well. This was his second tournament ever, outside of like a couple small ones in South Australia. And the difference between Panicking in the first pre-nuts he attended, which I think was pre-nuts 2, might have been pre-nuts 1. No, it was pre-nuts 2. And this one was there was a lot. He's definitely developed a lot. And that one game that Coolbeans was talking about in on Ascensions was he had a really good game. I think he got like a crazy tag ratio as well. It was like it was like at least 180% or something. I remember it being like an insane tag ratio. I'm pretty sure he was just on that backdoor green on like that on the end of the L. And he was just, people.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah. Apparently. Have you guys got any last things you would like to say about Illiterates?
Work together as a team more. Don't be
they were fun.
Disjointed. Yeah. Fun to play.
I'm excited to see how the two different teams play into this nationals, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, well done to Illiterates. 1 up from predictions. hope you guys learned a lot from this tournament and are applying it in your trainings at home. And yeah, I don't know. Just keep on keeping on. Moving on, in 18th place. Oh, bloody hell. We have Sandstorm. Up 1 from predictions. And on the team, we have Bro Dizzle, Red Devil, Commander Snake, Sicarius, and Gooby. 1 up from predictions as well. And Coolbeans, I believe you're taking us away for this one.
Yeah. So I think 3 of these players had never played H2 before. They picked it up so quickly. Like, so I think it was Red Devil, Bro Dizzle, and Gooby had never played H2, and you would never be able to tell dueling those guys. Gooby like sticks out to me as just a pain. Like whenever they attacked, Gooby was just always in the right place to be as annoying as possible. They had really strong 3-man hits. I think in majority of our games, the only time we dropped a base was when they had a really quick 3-man hit, and they'd hit, take their base, and leave. They'd try and stay around for a second, but they kind of had that game sense to know that if they weren't getting that second base, they'd just leave. Yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Okay.
Nicole, did you have any observations? Any initial ones?
I'm just trying to think, like, because we came up across them a couple of times in quick succession, I believe, on Ascensions 2, I think. Sorry, like Ascensions Cascade 2. And I think the standard, like they could hit bases, but perhaps like the packets, like I think we never felt worried about the packet game with them, which was interesting. But
yeah,
worried about bases. I'm thinking back here. It's not a team that I remember going, oh, we're going to struggle with the packed packets, which gave us, I think, again, this is a very personal side from our team, gave us confidence to not rush the game so much, if that makes sense, because we felt like we could out packet them. Their base hits were good, but they still needed 3 of them. They still needed, I think, consistently 3 of them to do it.
Yeah.
So, again, statistically, you look there and you've got 3 players there who get bases absolutely consistently, right? Which is great. But you got a couple, like what happens at the back half of the game when they've got their bases and Red Devil and Gooby. Again, I'm reading those statistics, trying to think back to how we felt playing against them. That was probably the one. Yeah, you go. Sorry.
Can we look at their average scores?
Yeah.
Let's predict what it's going to be. I reckon it's going to go high and then it'll plateau.
Kind of. Like, so you can see around the 4-minute mark, I think that's when they start getting their bases, and they do those 3-man hits, and they get a few under the belt.
Okay.
And then it really flattens off.
So they do these like waves of hits.
Yeah.
Through it on average. Okay. I wouldn't have predicted that. I'm trying to think back to them now. Is that a testament to potentially just the like that pack hitting ability, the ability to kind of force the issue with points and things like that. And that's where we see those plateaus, and then just like, nah, cool, we're gonna go and smack base for a moment, and they'll go and they'll pop it, and they'll get it. So I think that's a really interesting little kind of what data we have sitting in front of us here on the stream. We can almost see that in the statistics, which is a fascinating little one. And I don't know, we've got a few of them in the chat as well. So it'd be interesting to hear from an audience participation whether or not our assessment seems to ring true. Because it's always one thing to think what you feel how your team went versus how other people thought your team went. But that's kind of where my mind is. How about yourself, Ryan?
Yeah, it's just the stats are interesting, right? Like for a team that was 18th, like having like some of the lowest like average worms for most of the game, right? Like outside of that 2-minute spike, 6-minute spike, and the 11-minute spike. Oh, bit of spoilers. Yeah, and having like, I mean, you know, not like crazy base stats, but like, you know, 3 people with above a 1 but then 2 people with like getting no bases. And it's almost
Yeah.
like okay, so we got Bro Dizzle, Commander Snake, and Sicarius getting bases, right?
Yeah.
3 minutes is Bro Dizzle getting a base. 6 minutes is Sicarius getting a base. And 11 minutes is like someone else, like whatever order it is.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested into. I'm pretty. If those spikes are what that is.
Yeah.
But no, it's just interesting that they were able to be 18th with like their average worm looking like that.
I wonder.
My thoughts was that because none of their average scores are particularly high either. I think maybe they were forcing this. I can't remember. I don't think I versed this team more than once, if at all. But looking at that, I would assume they played or forced a very like heavy defense game. And then there wasn't many bases that went down, but the bases that did go down, they were able to get some, and they were able to sneak a bunch of wins doing that. But like they wouldn't have been like high pack scoring games either, because like none of the scores are like crazy. And so the tag ratios aren't insane either. Outside of like Red Devil's got a very nice one, and Gooby being 100, it's cool. But yeah.
To your point, I was about to say, I think it would be really fascinating, and maybe for future streams and things like that. What are the average scores against this when this team plays, right? Because we've obviously got, and to your point, right? You come 18th here by winning enough comp points, which means they either they had some absolute outlier games, or when it was really needed. And I can't remember where they came into Ascensions, but the other option is that whatever they're doing or however people play against them tends to make low base games or low point scoring games, which allows them that sort of statistical line there. And that's fascinating because I mean you see that on higher tier games over the years as well. When we get really low base games, your stats for those games are going to be very different to your 30 base games.
Yeah, for sure.
I was asked a question in the chat as well. Obviously, like it's a big discrepancy between the 3 that get lots and then the 0.3 and 0.2 it was. Yeah, really interesting.
Very interesting. I don't know if they're in the chat to confirm or deny that, but that is my analysis of the situation. But without further ado, unless you guys have something else to say, we'll choose some MVPs and we'll move on.
I've got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
Our team picked up sort of quickly that when we identified those 3-man hits, we found that their defense was really lacking, and it was very easy to sneak out another one. So they'd get one on us from that 3-man hit, but we'd also get one off them. And they'd send 3 off the bat as well. So we were able to send a 2 and get...
It's predictable.
Yeah, very quick bases very early. But, I mean, when you send a 3 attack, there's not much you can do with that 2 if you just get overwhelmed, especially with that third team there. So, yeah.
Interesting. So maybe I don't know what the roster is going to look like going forwards, but maybe I think there is a place for the three player blitzers, but like doing a really like making a predictable pattern of like they open up with a 3-player attack at the start of every game is not going to do them favors. I think you need to sprinkle them in at times in the game where like maybe the teams are thinking about something else. But if like it's pretty easy to catch. Like you said, Coolbeans. This team opens up with 3 every time, so let's just get a free hit at their base pretty much at the start of every game. You know what I mean? So, Commander Snake has some beef with you, bro. He's got some
beef with beans, guys. Beef with beans.
That's crazy. I remember
you're full of it, bro.
I guess I'm just remembering wrong. I remember me and Dart on attack once. We ran straight to blue, and I saw 3 people running straight at me.
Once.
Maybe it was once.
Interesting.
Was so long ago,
you get the slide. You get the pass on this one. Thank you, Commander Snake, for correcting that one. No, you're cool, bro.
Maybe he's just covering for it.
Maybe they plan on keeping on doing it, but if they keep saying that they don't do it, eventually people will believe it, and then they'll start picking them off the rim.
That's how we play dumps in Canberra. Everyone says we do it, and we just don't.
Yeah.
No, Nickel, that is
What we
not what's
do.
happening there, bro. That is a false statement. Anyway, we'll get more to that, I guess, when we talk about the other Canberra team in this stream. But who are our picks for MVP?
I like Sicarius for
Cool
the
guy.
fairly consistent. Pardon?
You said I like Sicarius. He's a cool guy. Good bloke.
I think at the statistical line here, I think consistently game basis, not getting denied a huge amount. That's really good. That's a skill in itself, and sometimes the next step after, you got to get denied to get bases, like to learn how to get bases. So it's a nice little stat line there. So.
Yep.
Sure. I'm gonna go with Bro Dizzle for my player. He this is his second sort of Ziltak ever. Can't train zone super often. So the fact that he's picked up H2 so quickly and done so well. He's the GOAT again.
Mm-hmm. Gooby solid MVP solid stats.
Yep. Ibo's MVP is Gooby, everyone. There we go. Good stats.
That's
true. My MVP, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Red Devil was the last line for this team, given the high tag ratio and low bases. But once again, this being an H2 tournament, and I think Red Devils maybe played H2 before, if I'm not mistaken. I think though. But still, being a last line and being able to maintain a tag ratio of 132%, where the H2 phaser is so easy to hit. Respectable. Yeah. So I'm going to give some kudos for that. And, not an awful deny average either with 0.7. So happy days. Anything else, or are we going to move on?
All right, move on. We might come back and forth, I think, as we get between teams, but...
Sure. Alrighty. In 17th, we had Heretics. On Heretics, we had Todd, Skyros, Vassity, Fizz, and Stonk. Up one from predictions. And who's talking about Heretics? Coolbeans.
I think it was me.
Or actually, no. It was, and then we changed it. So
yeah,
Nickel, you can take the lead.
If you want to start, Nickel, feel free.
I'll start on just this again common theme. I feel like with the bottom half of this tournament, a lot of this team felt like it was two separate teams. It felt like there was a couple of people in these teams that it felt very, very scary, but the other half felt like we had their measure, right? And we played these guys a bunch over the days, and they beat us. But by the end of it, we had beat them I think 2-3 times in a quick succession.
Sure.
And I think part of it was just the inconsistency with pushing bases. So I feel like and I'm happy to be called out if I got this wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it kind of came down to. It felt like we could base race this team a lot easier when it came down to it and force bases through the back half of the game. They just struggled to get that. That was our big takeaway, I think, from it. And I think we realized that if we ended up trying to base race them, we'd come out on top, because we did lose to them by doing other bits and pieces.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, you can see that in their stats as well, right? Just going off of it, Todd and Skyros, really good base averages with 1.5, 1.4, but it drops off really significantly after that. 0.7's not awful, but the 2 0.3s. And so, just looking at the stats, you could say, if you came up against this team and you made it a base race, obviously it depends on how your own team goes with bases, but you're probably going to be doing yourself a favor in that game for sure.
Yeah. So sorry, that was my big takeaway. I know we played them a whole bunch. Yeah. So Coolbeans, all onto you now, man.
It's funny you say that, because I had almost the exact same thing written down. Compared to Prenats 2, their arena presence felt reduced. They felt more spread out and had control, Prenats 2, whereas here they just didn't have that control. They couldn't hold that area as well, that's what I pulled away from watching them play and going up against them. I don't know what's happened between the two. I mean, maybe it's having Stonk on the team just that adjustment because they had Invictus. So it's possible Invictus was captaining, if I remember. But yeah, they just felt like they couldn't capture that area and hold it down as well as they could before. So
I guess something worth pointing out, we have a first team with a bunch of people above 100%, and like Fizz like really close with 90%. Stonk was the only one trailing a little bit with the 73%, but like some pretty good looking tag ratios.
Their pack has always been really good. That's the one thing that we could never beat them on. They would just always have so much more pack up on us. So yeah, they're really good pack players.
Do we think that's as much? And I'm not dismissing it, but how much of that do we think in pre-nats is the notional home site advantage? Because they are an Albury, they play out at Albury more than anything else, don't they? Yeah.
I don't think it's
they're all Albury players, no, except for Stonk.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too big of an advantage. Obviously, it helps, but Prenats 2, H2 was fresh, and they still had that massive advantage. Yeah. So obviously, with time, they've only gotten better with that pack. And Prenats 1, Nexus, they destroyed us as well. So it's the one consistent thing about this team. They just always do so well on pack.
Yeah, sure. Something I will throw out there is so there is one Adelaide player on this team, Stonk, and want to give some kudos. So, you know, sometimes we get this where like a player from another state will play for out of state, and you know that they get to a tournament and it's like that's their first time playing with them. Stonk actually went up around 3 weeks early to get some time in with these guys. So, you know, not everyone's willing to kind of make that commitment and put in that time. So going to give some kudos there. That was, cool. And I hope they got some value out of that as well.
That's huge. I do wonder, the last thing, we've seen it with a couple of the teams in the last two teams, I think. 5-man teams, or five-player teams, rather than 6-player teams. And whether or not we start to see that affect things. So,
in like a performance drop off.
Yeah, either performance drop off or an element of like sort of slightly less flexible in the comfort or strategies.
Yeah.
I don't know why my camera decided to put the thumbs up.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you, Apple. But yeah, I wonder whether or not if this is the team going to nationals, are they taking a 6th? Like, I wonder whether or not.
I don't believe so.
I'm pretty sure I just heard that Heretics is the same roster, but they now have Celery.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's a really good pickup for this team, actually. That's quite a bit of firepower. I don't know if that was a secret. I might have just spilled the beans. But
no one was meant to know. You've ruined it.
My bad. I mean, people just told me real casually, so I just assumed it was not. Apologies if I've spilt some beans that were meant to stay unspilt. But yes, they have 6 and they have Celery now, which Celery is obviously a very capable player. He's played at the top end a few times. He's been on a bunch of teams that have done really well. So yeah, I see him doing this team quite a lot of favors. For sure.
My laptop's about to die. Bear with me.
All right, no worries. Coolbeans, have you got any last bits you want to say about this team before Nick will fix his laptop and we move to MVPs?
If they can just tighten up that arena control like they had at Prenats 2, and just sort of figure out where they are and really lock that down, I think they could do so much better.
Sure.
And yeah, if Stonk works well with that team and Celery, they could have some really good team cohesion. I think that's about it.
Yeah, sure. Nico, have you got any last things you'd like to add?
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to play them again because I think we had the measure by the end of it, so I'm intrigued to see how that might play out again at nationals. And just wanted to call out like Todd's statistics. There are nuts. Like
they're very strong.
Like they're real. Like not getting denied. They were everywhere in the maze. while also retaining those sort of statistics. Like, well done, man. Like,
yeah, I guess we'll do that now. Are you saying Todd's your MVP, Nickel? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I don't like, as much as, like, obviously it's a team game, it's not an individual, but those sort of statistics are really hard to go past. And if they can instill that into one or two other their players, or take those and work other players through the same sort of methodology of how they're thinking when they're playing, then that goes a long way, because a lot of it's how you think. So,
Coolbeans?
I got to stop copying Nickel, but I'm also going to say Todd is MVP. He's just crazy. Like, yeah, hitting those phases really, like from Nexus, transfers over to H2 really well, and he's kept up that performance. So yeah, Todd is my MVP.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you can hit the Nexus phases, then hitting the H2 phases is going to be no problem. I would say Nexus phases, half the time it just goes, nah.
Probably not. Hey. Yeah.
But you still go for him, because on H2, like, that's what it happens a lot in Adelaide. One of the mantras that everyone repeats is like, no, if that was H2, I would have got that bloody thing. It's really funny. That's definitely a Nexus moment. But yeah, I'm going to go with Todd as well. No, really good stats. And like Nico was saying, if some of that, how he was going about doing that can be sprinkled throughout the team, even if it's not to the same extent, like even if it's only like by a small margin, like it's going to bump the whole team up, So, yeah. Todd, I don't know how much you think about like what you're doing. I know for me, when I first started playing my first like few years, probably honestly up until like 2020, so from 2015 to 2020, I really didn't think much about what I was doing. It was all just like instinct. I was just kind of like doing things. If you asked me like, oh, like why'd you do that way, I'd be like, I don't know. So I don't know what's going through Todd's head when this is happening, but yeah, make a conscious effort to think about how you do the things you do and why you do them that way. And when you do that, it then becomes something that you can translate to other people. But if it stays just like that instinctual, like I just kind of do it. I don't know. I'm just kind of goated. That just get better. That's kind of hard to translate. So that would be my thoughts on that. Anyway, anything else?
Nah.
Happy days. Moving on, in 16th, we have the Quackening. So they were even with their predictions. We had Plank, Elmo, Simi Bear, Phoenix, the BMW. And talking about the Quackening is Coolbeans. Take it away.
Yeah. I don't have too many notes on them, but they seem to play very fluid like positions, and it just works well. Like their last line, I refed them a few times. It'd be Plank for a little bit, and then Elmo for a little bit, and it just worked. Like I'd seen a lot of teams that changeover between the last line, maybe an attacker comes home, it's a little bit clunky. They just did it very smoothly. It never caused any issues. And on that bandwagon, Plank under a base, watching him play is insane. It's very, very fast. So yeah. Like it's just fun to watch him. He's very good under a base. And yeah, with that tag ratio, clearly he's doing something right. So yeah, that's all I've got in my notes.
As fun as Plank is to watch, it's going to be interesting to see as we get more and more refs, like whether or not certain speeds might need to be adjusted slightly. Plank, I say this as a ref who pulled Plank aside, I'm pretty sure, during Prenats 3. But he's fun to watch. I think for this tournament, especially, this team perhaps showed off the problem that 5-person teams have. Especially as I'm pretty sure the BMW was at a point where he was hobbling by the end of it and shuffling around the maze.
Man could barely walk, poor thing.
yeah. And to his credit, 0 denied. So, yeah, that's
I mean, the 1.4 denies 4 is like pretty good, right? Like if you can barely move, it's not like he's lunging for those denies. He's just kind of strolling in,
which suggests incredible placement and timing, right? So, be like the BMW, except with the ability to walk. That's the mantra for all these teams down here. I think part of it was, like this team sort of struggled towards the back half where they perhaps should have, and they perhaps lost games where they really shouldn't have, if they'd had a 6th player to sub in, depending on that player. So I do think that's a really interesting one. And
do we know do they have a 6th for Nats?
I don't know if they've got a 6th for Nats.
Links in the chat. Hopefully he can correct us.
So cool Apple things. 1.4 denies. So a couple of the comments. The 1.4 denies on a broken foot is crazy. Like it shows, because he wouldn't have got that just at the first half of the tournament. So it does show just how important timing and position can be. You don't necessarily have to be able to bolt halfway across the maze to get that deny. Cough, plank, cough. Even with the 1.3 deny, so well done. So we got tech. Yeah, there you go. Cool. That'll be good. And I say this lovingly, being one of those people who is getting slightly older of the cohort of players, that we've got a couple of older players here. So I feel for you guys. Get a 6th player who can run around. How did they go from this perspective? Yeah, on the averages, we didn't look at the averages from the last one, but Quacking there, you see, like they seem to have a consistently slow start comparatively to the rest of this field, but have this wild middle game. So I wonder what that translates to. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I don't know, Ryan. I don't know how many times you would have played these guys, but.
I don't remember playing them. The only game I refed them was that one game that had only 2 teams in it. So I unfortunately don't have a lot to say. But I would say, judging by the tag ratios and obviously Blank had a really high base average. Like the rest, I was going to say maybe they were dumping in the back half of games, having not watched. But then I might have expected their base average to be a little bit higher for the whole team. So I'm not really sure. I would just be lying through my teeth if I said anything else. So I don't have anything to say, unfortunately.
I think we've seen it before. Perhaps the pack-to-pack skills through the back half of the game. Perhaps I'm just looking again at analysis, especially you're looking at the BMW being a last liner, in part because of the foot, in part because I believe that's sort of more natural, comfortable things. But if you kind of commit to the fact that you have 4 people on your team that are going to get bases and 1 person that's not, those 4 you're going to need to find points somewhere else in the maze towards the back half of the game. And maybe that's what we're seeing there, is we're seeing these big bounces in bases as we kind of push 4 people through it and then kind of peters off a little bit. But I'm just kind of playing there with the statistics we've got on screen here.
Yeah. Coolbeans, have you got any insight?
No, I can't remember too many of the games. When they did attack us, obviously sitting in defense a lot, they felt very coordinated. Like everyone was where they needed to be in their attack, and it worked. It was very hard keeping them out. So their attacks felt really good. But apart from that, I can't remember too much.
Yeah, sure.
Interesting, because the last couple of games we played, we found I'm not I used to be a defensive player primarily, but we found that we could deal with their attack really quite well, and I feel like they almost need the third person to break base. As a 2, they seem to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I only remember them doing a 3 attack, but Plank is testing my memory, so before. So yeah, that's the only time I can remember. But yeah, maybe it's just an Olympus diff. Roll us.
Olympus diff. I don't know if you guys don't have anything else to say. We'll just move on to some MVPs for this team, and we'll keep this train moving.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Plank, regardless of his speed.
Good man. Good man.
He's fun. He's fun to watch, and he's a great player. Like genuinely, we had some good chats with him. But I'm gonna go with BMW because it's shit playing Sick. It's shit playing Hurt. Sorry for swearing, but it's and kudos to him for doing it. And those statistics are pretty good. Like that tag ratio is not awful. Not a huge amount of hits, but that's where if you're last lining, like your average score is going to be low. But those denies are insane for someone, and the lack of being denied in himself, which suggests that when he does get bases, he was getting them very, very clean.
Not very, just as clean as it gets.
Yep. So that doesn't happen as often, but I want to commend that because again,
for sure. Give some kudos to BMW as well. Good on you for soldiering on the broken foot. However, Plank stats kind of hard to look past. Like a 1.7 base average is I believe I did look through the top 5 stats for like all of the different bits, and I'm pretty sure 1.7 was within the top 5. So,
oh wow, having
one of the best base averages of the comp, you're going to get some kudos from me. And being a fellow quick, fast player, I'm all for it. Until you run into someone. Just don't run into someone. It's easy.
The head ref in me says, just don't. If you don't run into someone, I don't care.
Yeah. Good man. Alrighty. Moving on. Well done, Quackening. BMW, I hope your foot is unbroken. And looking forward to seeing how this team goes. Yes, as Ivo said, don't slow down, just don't hit anyone. And I couldn't agree more. that is my.
And if you do hit someone,
say sorry.
Say sorry. Take it like a champ. Take your turn, because no one thinks less of you. Just like that's. I think things. Sorry, that's a different conversation. I imagine. Oh, hey. 15th.
15th, we had Outlaws down 4 from predictions. Ouch. On the team, we had Sirical, Pat King, Campster, Invictus, Vexum, and Brownie.
I think this was me.
It can be. It can be.
I think it was because we don't understand. We got trashed by these guys over and over again. And their statistics, you're looking at this, because I'm having a quick look back at the games. They're good.
Yeah, they're good. That's some good-looking stats.
They are some very good-looking stats. Now, they did get, and this is where I think I would love to know what the stats were progressively through the comp, because something happened in that last day, and I'm not sure what it was. And I wonder whether or not the denied stats line, which is also pretty good here in the sense of not golf, there's quite a lot of fairly high denied. So the bases they were getting were expensive for them. But these guys had us dead to rights for a vast majority of the competition, and this last day just seemed to sort of collapse. And I wonder whether or not it is as much whether or not there's a mental game here that kind of broke apart on the last day, because that's what it felt like. It felt like suddenly we could beat this team. It felt like we could get denies, and it felt like they were getting points. They were potentially out-pack hitting us, but they was costing them to get bases. So, yeah, that's my read. They also have potentially they've got their team of 6, and they've obviously got their Vexum and Brownie. Obviously, have quite distinctly different stat lines to the rest of the team. Last lining, I believe, for both.
Yeah,
of them.
Vexum. I know Vexum definitely was. I'm not sure about Brownie, but
and I wonder whether or not, similar to other teams where you've got 4 people doing really well, can you lift that last person up from an average score perspective that just gets you those competition points? But yeah, I'm not looking at the chat, so I'm not sure if anyone's in there. But yeah,
Benny's having a rant in the chat. That's what's happening. Yeah.
It's
I guess
funny.
you go first, Coolbeans.
Yeah, it's funny Benny mentions that because that's what I have in my notes that they defend really strong, and I think we have the same issue where they defend so strong so people don't touch it, they just leave it, and then they get starved of points. If you look at their average line, the average worm, they tend to they go up at the 8-minute mark of the game. So I think they dip down, they realize they're starving, and they attack.
It
And
might be too late.
yeah, so they do that big push too late in the game, and they just don't get those bases or that pack. And they should be able to because they're really good on pack as well. But yeah, they just, like Benny said, they defend themselves into a really bad spot and then can't get out of it.
So, but you're looking at these statistics lines here, right? They outperformed on average everyone else in this bracket except for Chaz was just.
Yeah,
who did a similar thing on their last day. They had a bit of a struggle on their last day as well, or at least a couple of games we played. We played about 2 games against them as well. Like we played the same teams like 3 times on the last day. But it would suggest to me that the comp itself did quite well for the comp, and I believe if we found it, I don't have it handy, how they came out around Robin versus Cascade 1, Cascade 2, and Ascensions. The averages were good, but they've obviously lost on that last day.
That's what you were saying earlier before, right? Like it seemed like something just happened and they just last day. Because as Runt has pointed out, like looking at the worms, like there's no way this team should be at the bottom, like not at the top of this like bracket. You know what I mean? Yeah. In terms of placement.
Yeah, Cyrillical, second, third. I'm not sorry, guys.
Goddamn, boy.
Second, third. And they got third in the last game. Yeah. So
I don't know. Cyrical is in the chat. Have you got any insight for us, bro? What happened on that last day? What went wrong? Who spit the dummy? Give us the tea. We'll go back to this. The stats of this team isn't the stats of like a team that was in 15th for most of the tournament. You know what I mean? Like the stats for this is like a team that was in the. I believe this was the case. I'm pretty sure they're in the top 10 like the whole tournament, and it was only like on the last day that they dropped.
Yeah. I think the worm is compared the average score against the bottom 10 teams. So I'd like to see what it is against the top 10 if that average is a lot lower.
Yeah,
it's really interesting little tidbit of statistics there. Yeah,
that's true. Because I feel like a lot of the games that we were thinking of Coolbeans when we were watching and like seeing them defend themselves into a third, like you'd be like. They'd be down like so many bases, and you'd still see like 3 or 4 people in their defense. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
A lot of those games, as I was saying before, this team was in the top 10 for most of the tournament.
Yeah.
A lot of those games would have been against those top teams. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this worm average thing looks very different.
Yeah.
Against some of the top 10 teams, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I butted in on someone.
Huge. Sorry, just pulling up there. So huge climb into 7th at the start of Cascade 1.
And then a drop down into 13th. And then
a drop into 13th, and then a drop into 15th with the second, third.
Rough game.
Yeah. No, look, and we're not gonna air dirty laundry. This is for their team, but it shows that you can still have a very, very good start to a tournament. And you can have a rubbish last couple of days, or rubbish Cascade 2 or something like that, and it's a matter of just trying to make sure that you shake that off before the next set of games. And for those people who might be listening to this who are in this bottom half of the competition, so from a bracket perspective, it's a skill set that you only tend to get with time. It's only something you tend to learn when you have gone through it. And it can affect even teams that sit within the top 10. It's not something that magically goes away if your skills get you out of the bottom half of the field. It just doesn't work that way. So think about that. It's not a skill set that you learn necessarily in the maze. Or it translates to something in the maze. So,
yeah. Well, Sirical didn't want to spill the beans. Fair enough, mate.
That's fair. And that's fair. We don't have to do it. I just like to point out that you guys have said they defended themselves into a corner or defended themselves into a third for a few games. But they've got a fairly aggressive average base count there with 1.4, 1.4, 1.21. Obviously, our fifth player is going to be quite a lot lower. That's not a bad stat line for across 4 out of 5 players playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, in the average stats, I mean, I think what we were saying before is like maybe sometimes they would make the adjustment, right? Because you can see like that climb bit, but maybe it was like too little, too late. You know what I mean? So they are getting some base hits towards the end or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, the gap they were trying to cover, there was like too significant of a base discrepancy between them and the team that was winning. And just not giving themselves enough time to bridge that gap, I guess, is what my insight is. But
Circle's on, they're saying that they attacked a lot. So fence into a corner seems like an odd take. And we'll leave it there. I wanted to say, though, I enjoyed playing against Outlaws, and we played against them a bunch towards the back half of it, at the start and the back half. So was fun. I enjoyed playing against you guys.
Yeah, fun team to verse.
Happy days. Who is our pick for MVP? Damn, the music's popping right now. I don't know if you guys are listening, but
I'm going to go Brownie for MVP. Very, very difficult to deal with on a door. Very fun to duel against. Just very annoying to deal with.
Nickel?
I don't know. I really don't. I enjoyed playing them as a collective team. But there was no one who stood out as like being like, oh my god, I've got to play against this person again, or oh god, he's on that door again. I've got to go to the other side of the base because I don't want to deal with that. So
it's just too good. You just beat them all.
My statistics, I don't think are that good. Come on. Good fun playing with them. Learned a lot playing with them. So thank you guys. My go-to MVPs are kudos to Vexum and Brownie for playing those last line, because again, you don't get enough credit playing last line. Just got to work out where to get those points. I think balancing that balancing act.
Happy days. My pick gonna be Vexum. Anytime I see a last line with a really healthy tag ratio, 148%, real good on Helios 2. That gets my respect right off the rip. So I'm going to pick Vexum for my MVP. I am multitasking, so bear with me. I'm not very good at this. Sirical has called us out, and he said that they attacked quite a lot. So he reckons that the defending too much is a hot take. And maybe that is the case. They did attack, but at least like watching the scoreboards, like I remember having that thought quite a lot, like quite a few. It wasn't just like one game, you know what I mean? There was quite a few times I was watching, and maybe it was a case of the people were out, but not necessarily getting bases. Is that a little bit more accurate, Sirical? Like the attack sometimes struggled to actually convert into bases. Because I don't think that was a obviously there's like lots of narratives that like kind of develop for teams. So Outlaws has started developing that narrative of like defending themselves to third, which, acknowledge some bias there. Could have been that, but I definitely remember watching the scoreboard and objectively thinking, okay, like it looks like they're doing the thing. But maybe he can give some insight and comment on that. While I can't multitask. My brain is frying. Runt's messaged me. He's asking for some. He's going to put something together. Like for, I can't even explain.
Runt's doing things. So
Circle's come back with the attack would change based on how the game was playing, and that's obviously that's pretty standard, and something that a slightly more experienced team like Outlaws can do compared to say some of the other teams that we've talked about today already, who perhaps you got to be careful about being particularly flexible in a game because you can sometimes overcomplicate it for yourself. Outlaw, you get that skill set as you get better, and Outlaws is definitely a team that can do that. So, and yeah, look, it's a combination of the games that played, how you played, sometimes just the random nature of the teams you play and how they played out. And Cyril was talking through the fact that he sort of played a defensive role or a door, but also pushed out, and you can see that that door playing position can get quite a lot of points and a good base average. So,
for sure, especially on that back door, the back doors of green and red. Like if you don't have like a 1 base average as the backdoor defender on green and red, then I think you might be doing something wrong, or maybe you're missing out on a lot of opportunities for sure.
Yeah. So I think for those that we've talked about before, and we haven't really talked a huge amount on the positioning and door players versus last line, and if you're a door player, but some of those lower scores we see for our defenders, our traditional defenders in these teams, perhaps go watch some of Outlaws games. Go watch Circle on that door and when they move to get bases, because that's a really nice score average and a really good tag ratio for ultimately a player that may have defended for a vast majority of the competition. So well done, man. And thank you for chucking some stuff in the chat so we can bounce off.
Thank you for calling us out, sir. All right, moving on.
All right. Next one.
Place. Get him next time, Outlaws. We have Chaz was down 2 from predictions. We had the legs, Zeropa. E? Is that a typo?
I think that's right.
That's right.
Who is E? Is that Molten? Has Molten changed his name to E? Whatever, bro. E. Robo, Cheeto, and Mum. Cool. Who is taking us away with Chazwas? I had it down as Nickel.
Yeah. We couldn't beat this team literally until the last day, and we don't for the life of us understand why. And that's if Chazwas is in the chat. This is not a statement on you guys. We just didn't understand why we couldn't get your measure through the whole thing. And I wouldn't have predicted these statistics for this team. To be blunt, I would have thought you would have had a far higher discrepancy between.
Are they all wrong from here? No, we're good. Okay.
No, that's good. You double checked on that one. So I wouldn't have predicted this. I would have predicted a far more of a split in the team again, with some higher tag ratios, higher statistical lines, and then some significantly lower ones. But I'm looking at this at Robo and Cheeto, and those lines are great, and even Mum. As we talked about, a 74% tag ratio. So I think these guys played really well. I think you've got some very high levels of experience in the leg and things like that out there, and it's a balancing act of just making sure that the team sort of pulls the slightly less experienced players through bases, and I think that's where perhaps they fell down on the last day, where as other players and other teams started to catch up on the maze and things like that, and people started to get the measure of teams. You can't just rely on 1 or 2 players, which is what we felt like when we finally got over the top of them. But it was the last game that we got over the top of them. I don't think we beat them.
Was it a high base? Was it a high base game, perchance?
I believe it was. Yeah, most of our wins were high base games in the end, and I'll talk about that in the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so that's my sort of take on it. I just wanted to kind of put my hands up and go, I don't understand quite why, except for the statistics. But looking at these statistics now, actually, maybe I just misread this team something chronic. And as a captain, that's really embarrassing. So there you go.
Yeah, sure. Coolbeans, did you have any insights? Did you not verse Chaz Wass's
No, I don't think we had too many
Chaz
games.
Wass's very much.
Yeah, we didn't verse them too much. They just rolled us every time we versed them. I think we had a few close games in the games we played, but it felt like they were rolling us in game. Just very tight team. Yeah, maybe our defense just sucks now that I'm thinking back to it.
Well, actually, to that point, Coolbeans. So we got Kat in the chat, and she's pointed out that the last day we managed to, and I say we, probably Kat, like our defenders, managed to stop the Leg and Zeropa's attack early in the game.
Yeah, okay.
And we actually managed to blunt that, which, thinking back, perhaps we'd struggled to do that previously, and with that little push at the start, or like that sort of slightly harder start for them, perhaps that comes back to that: how do you pull the rest of your team up if your assumed easy bases aren't as easy, if that makes sense. To your point, if you feel like your attack is your defense was struggling in hindsight, then maybe that's it. That's a thank you, Kat. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I think that's something I've seen. I know it's happened on teams I've played on in the past, where let's say you have a team that has a really strong opening attack, and if you can notice that, like when that attack like starts strong, the game kind of snowballs pretty hard, and it's like really hard to catch up with them. And so something I've done on teams in the past is devoting the first 2 minutes to really throwing a spanner in the works for that team's attack, and not letting them get that like super early like strong start. And if you can just like stunt it a little bit, especially if it's attack that's typically doing really well, I think mentally it can play a little bit where, like, you know, almost every other game, like our attack starting strong, and then this time, like, our attack is like we just can't get in anywhere. Like, there's all these people shooting us in the back. This is so annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That can play a really big role in like kind of stunting that team for the rest of the game. Yeah. So no, that's interesting that the game. Was that the one Kat was talking about? Is that the game that you guys beat them on the last day?
Yeah, it was.
For sure. Especially on a team where, like, when you look at the stats, like it is top heavy. You know what I mean? And if the top heavy part isn't having a good start, then it doesn't bode well for the rest of the game, right? So, no, that's a good observation for sure. Have either of you got anything else you'd like to say about Chaz Wazzers?
Is this team coming back in its format? In this composition?
It's the same thing.
No.
Pretty similar. I'm sure someone in the chat has the bloody teams list up right now, and they're going to find out for us, and they're going to let us know. Or someone on the teams in the chat.
If it does, I'm excited to play against them again. Honestly, they did really well, and I think they should be no leg. Well, I wish I could say I'm sorry, but I would love to play against the leg. He just beats me.
So, what should have been. I mean, look at he had a pretty good tournament, right? Look at the stats are pretty damn strong.
Yeah, I just struggled. I just struggle with him. It's simple as that.
We have a thing. Thank you, Pug. We have Cheeto, Robo, Stingray. That's cool. Ems, Peregrine, and Griffo. So yeah, kind of different.
Yeah. Big shake up.
Okay, Havoc is leg, Mum, E.
Okay, sure.
Okay, guys, I will set up my room for the next stream with green lights in it. Sorry.
That's so true. That would have been perfect.
He's got a green chair. He's got a green chair.
I do have a green chair. It's a mint green.
Close enough. Man, that was totally accidental as well.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Next stream, I will grab a green. I'll get this set up in a green room.
Anyway, who are your picks for MVP, everyone?
I can't go past the leg. He was a pain in the ass to play. I just think my big thing is just It's obviously going to be a slightly different team, but if you can drag people through bases, it'd be terrifying because those statistics are a pain. So where's mine?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Zeropa. Just nice guy, good on attack. Can't beat him. So good stats.
Yeah, cool. I will match the Zeropa pick. Cool guy, nice guy, good stats, hard to deal with. All true statements. So I'm just gonna copy Coolbeans on that one verbatim. Happy days. All right. Well, yeah, it won't be Chazwaz's. It'll be Havoc with a slightly different lineup, but we look forward to seeing them back. Moving on.
Nichols got his green light.
We've got 2 teams left. We're doing good. Did you get your green light? No? Where is it? Oh, shit.
He's holding it, yeah.
Let's go. Well done. Happy days. All right. 13th place. We didn't really look at Chazwaz's thing. Anyway, there it is.
It's good. It's their back half of their game seems nuts. So,
which is in contrast to what we said before. They had a really heavy hit with Legan, right?
No, not necessarily. It could just simply be that they like the game that we managed to win on. We managed to block that attack, but that might
I see.
Like, their bases might naturally come later in the game.
Yeah.
So, but that run at the end, those last sort of 4 minutes of the game is crazy for them. So whatever they're doing there,
do it earlier.
Yeah, do it earlier and then do it again.
Happy days. All right, moving on. 13th place, we have the Canberra Crows up 2. This is you, Nickel. Is that a McMuffin?
Yeah. A cheeseburger or something.
Good man. On the team, we had Nickel, Gun, first tournament for Gun. That guy, Dragon, Cornetto, and Angel. Yeah, Gun's never going to let that up. That one time I slipped up and said he was a first-year player. Give me a break, bro. Give me a break. I've got a lot of things I'm doing, you know? Anyway. Nickel, do you spill the beans.
I think I was going to mention this. This is very similar to our other Canberra team, and I imagine in the next video you do with the top half, you're going to see this again in the Dragons. I'm just going to take a wild guess. Statistics doesn't necessarily mean like good statistic on the individual players doesn't necessarily mean you beat teams that have worse statistics. It's not everything, I think, is what we're getting at. And we started to see that at the tournament because we managed to pull out sort of the climb towards the end with, and you look back at these statistics, and we don't have the greatest statistics in the world. They're not bad. They're fairly consistent. No one under 83% on tag ratio. That's pretty good. But just kudos to the team. Honestly, they managed to pull together. This was the first time we had played with this composition of a team. We played a little bit back in Canberra, but this is the first time at competition for it. So, so it was really, really interesting to see how they all work together, both as a personality mixing pot, because we've obviously got a pretty wide range of players. We've got 19-year-old, and then someone who's at an age that it's inappropriate for me to think on a fossil.
Guy can barely move.
Wheelchair age.
Wheelchair was on. So I think for us, the big thing that we came out of this is a really strong mental game and playing together with that. I think we also established that, and we've talked about it a little bit, that flexibility is important, but complex teams. Complex. There was an ad playing just when we were talking about us. Complex.
That's right. On YouTube, there will be no ad, so we'll be right. This is still good.
Complex plans that change on the fly aren't always the best.
No.
And overcomplicating your approach to the game serves a purpose in some cases, but going back to basics tended to do us really, really well.
For sure.
So,
I think that's I've said this on streams before, but I feel like that's a lot of up and coming teams get stuck in, where they focus way too much on the macro part of the game, like the big strategies and like the flow and moving parts and stuff. And obviously there is a lot of things you can do with that. But the reality is, like, if your 3-player defense can't stop a 2-player attack, and if your 2-player attack can't break a 3-player defense, then you've got some bigger problems than figuring out how to do any of these complex strategies, for sure. So the advice I always give to up and coming teams or more development style teams is put all of your eggs in like the fundamentals basket, get really, really good and clean and polished with the standard setup. And then as you need, you can start to add little adjustments, but they are little adjustments of the standard setup, not vast, like completely different strategies. Like at the core, it's still 3 defense, 2 attack. It's just like once you start to get a little bit more comfy and you go, when we're not being attacked, we don't really know what to do with our door defenders. And then that's when you add the little layer of, okay, our door defender, when we're at this base, can push to this base really easy. So we're attacking that base, they can actually like help us get in or even get a base from defense, which is like really valuable, right? But at the core, it's still the standard strategy, for sure. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, Nickel. Or dumb.
Standard strategy or dumb.
For sure.
There you go, Kat. I did my job. I do think that like I'd love to get your read on it, you guys. But I mean, it's a really interesting mix of people talking here, because we kind of all ended up kind of away from each other in the playing fields, so to speak. So I don't know what your takes are on the team. I've got a bunch more, obviously, because I'm analyzing my own team. But Coolbeans,
Dad, bro.
We didn't verse you guys a lot, so I don't have heaps of notes. But like, yeah, you guys seem to have really good cohesion. You're saying that mental again. Your mental was really strong throughout the whole comp. I never saw a grin. Not a grin. I never saw anyone mad on your team in the lobby. So yeah, maybe it's just something in the water in Canberra that lets you keep your mental up.
Maybe.
But yeah,
it hasn't always been that way with Canberra.
No.
Let's be very clear. We've had our moments.
But yeah, like you guys just seem to play really well together and enjoy doing it. So yeah, nothing really bad that I saw from the team, but also didn't verse you guys heaps. So
and same thing for me, Nico. I really can't comment outside of anything that would just be straight line. But as you've pointed out, like the average tag ratios for the team are like decent, but they're not crazy. Like those teams below you with like much better average scores, much better average tag ratios, and it does go to show, I think that you said you like a lot of the time towards the end of the comp you were ending in like very high base game scenarios, and I think in doing so, like tag ratios naturally take a little bit of a hit, so it does like make sense. But yeah, really good tag ratios aren't the prerequisite of a win. They certainly help, but you can definitely get away without it for sure.
Yeah, your worm's pretty good as well. It's very consistent, very upwards trend the whole time, and then it just takes off at the end.
And I think that's there's a bit of cadence play there on base taking and the unwillingness just to let them sit.
Yeah,
we played some defensive games, and we had mixed success with breaking the mold of the strategy mold dramatically. So, but yeah, look, I think it's I would like to think that this Prenat 3 and these statistics for this team is a really good showcase that team cohesion, bases are important, and just you don't need everyone running super high tag ratios to win. Like if you collectively as a team bring everybody up, you can climb those ladders. So just that's kind of, in my opinion, and yeah, the team did really, really well. We're a couple above what was predicted, which was really nice. So yeah, excited to take the team to nationals.
Is this your Nats lineup?
Yeah, this is the Nats lineup. So
watch out.
Yeah,
Coolbeans. Not you, Coolbeans, just Coolbeans as a statement. Who are our MVPs for the team? Nickel, you go first.
I'm actually going to call out that guy, or Jimmy, because clearly
Which
tag
guy?
ratio of 110. Clearly, he's the best of all of us. But no, super consistent, and plays that sort of that split role between attack and defense, which can sometimes be a little bit draining on the players. But he did it amazingly. So I couldn't be happier with him for that. So yeah, that's probably my one, which is perhaps a little counterintuitive if you just look at the stats there. But that's my one.
Speaking of going against stats, I'm gonna go Dragon. Very fun to play against at a door. Dragon's on attack, right?
Dragon effectively is she's vice. She's second caller generally as an attacker, but like me, traditionally, both Dragon and myself are actually probably defenders at our heart.
But have swapped into an attacking role.
Yeah, just as a byproduct of the overall experience of the team.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's worked really well in the games we did verse. So yeah, just a player that stuck out of my mind versing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Mine's going to be entirely based on stats, but Nickel, I like your base average, mate. As you were saying, someone that's typically been a defensive player, having a 1.5 base average is very, very healthy. So yeah, well done. Keep that up. See if you can bump that tag ratio up just a smidge.
Yeah, and drop those denies a little bit.
You miss every shot you don't take, huh? You know, I don't think if you don't have it. No, I'm not going to say that. I think we were saying this in the last prediction stream, maybe the last review stream. If you don't have like a denied against stat of like 1.3 or higher, then you're like probably not trying to shoot the bases enough times, you know. You know, how many bases did you miss out on because you didn't?
Yeah,
let's put it that way. Happy days.
Awesome.
Any last bits about the Canberra Crows before we move on to our last team?
No. Happy. Got to play you more, Coolbeans.
Yeah.
Or play you more, Ryan. We'll come find you in the top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to go up, not down.
More likely as our pre-nats, Aftershocks pre-nats 2 and 3 performances haven't been the stuff of legends, so we'll see what happens. Moving on, before I start crying, 12th place. We have one up, down 3 from predictions. We have the usual boys, Gunner, Cratchy, Guinea, and Snake. And who is talking about one up?
I think I'd put my hand up for this one.
Sure, all you, bro.
Just frustrating, but also a really interesting statistical team on how they play. And they play the fact that they feel like they change the way the whole game plays, like all teams in the maze. And you look at those numbers there, and they've all got they've all got that 100% tag ratio, but they're not super heavy on bases for 3 of them out of 5, and not super high average scores, which would suggest that they're controlling the game in its entirety. And I think that comes a lot from years and years and years of experience. And I know you've got the -3 here, so they were maybe predicted to be a little bit higher than they ended up coming. But I think the thing that these guys have over the last 12, or whatever it is, 9 teams we've talked about, is that they've got the experience. They've seen all of the things that those teams in the bottom half do and don't do before, and they know what to do against them. They know how to control a game far better than the teams below them, and that shows.
Speaking of control, on that note, I'll jump in quickly.
Yeah.
1UP, typically a very chaotic team. Seeing a dump from 1UP, not uncommon. Seeing a 2D, 3 attack, not uncommon, especially if like they open with the 3 defense to attack and it's not going so well, right? But we saw quite a bit more like pretty heavy defenses from 1UP, at least.
Yeah.
Every time they're on green. Every time I remember versing them was on green. So maybe that was just like their green strat, but it's kind of reflected in their base stats as well, right? Like usually I feel like we would see the base stats across the board are a little bit higher. But it is very much Gunner and Crouchy leading the dance. And then there's a very significant drop off after that. So yeah, when I remember versing them, there was some like 4 5-man Ds sometimes. I was like, this is crazy. Like, what team am I versing? I thought I was versing 1UP.
Olympus had a game where we had a strat. We're like, we're going to hit green right off the bat really hard. And we get there and they're holding a 5D. And we're like, well, that ruins our whole plan. Let's just goodbye, guys. Like, can't do anything. And it was really strong. Like, we actually couldn't do anything. And then same on attack when they, counterattacked. They just put us exactly where they wanted us. Always really good on pack. So...
I mean, yeah, all of them above like at 100% or higher, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's what you'd expect from these boys. They've always been very strong, brawly, pack on pack type players. One thing I will call out is, in spite of having like some heavier defenses and maybe playing some more standard games where they had like people like under the base, no one's like tag ratio jumps out as like a really good last line stat. From what I understand, it was Snake a lot of the time. So I'm curious. I'm pretty sure Snake and Gunner are in the chat. Maybe there was a little bit of trouble with like the H2 getting tagged on the phaser or something. But yeah, none of the tag ratios are jumping out for a team that was doing some heavier defenses. Again, it could have just been it was only green. They did the heavy, and then everywhere else it was different. But if they can give some insight in the chat, that would be. Just trash and old. Yeah, sweet. Figured. Yeah, cool. Coolbeans. I don't know if you verse these guys much, but do you have any other insights about 1UP?
No, like they just rolled us again. Like they're really good on pack. Their attacks felt like everyone was where they needed to be. Back of red really comes out to me where you think you've got that guy that's closer to green, and so you win him, and then there's someone in the sweep just waiting for you. And then, you just get destroyed. I
think one of the things we haven't talked about, because I've got the tracker off to the side here, is, and we can look at the statistics here, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a little bit. Where is it? Where are they? 1UP. There he is. So very
kind of in the middle, but in the towards the top at the end.
Yeah. So that back half of the game, quite good at punching through the points there, whether or not the game has come to them. But I just want to point out, and again, not a go at 1UP, but it's an interesting one because of the experience there. They came out of round robin at 8th, came out of Cascade 1 at 6th, and then Cascade 2 dropped back down to 9th, and then went from 9th to 12th.
Sure.
So, really good start of the tournament. On average, not a great second half. So, I'd be intrigued to get your read for both of you. Like, was it just an anomaly at the start? They had a particularly good round robin draw, maybe. There's always a little bit of randomness in that. But Cascade 1 also punched them. They came out of round robin at 8th and then punched their way up another 2 spots in Cascade 1. So the idea
as Gunnar put it in the chat, they're just old. So maybe the cardio is just like not there by the end of the tournament. They wake up with sore backs. They're like, jeez, I'm not gonna be lunging so hard today. You know,
So what we're hearing
slow
is one up.
reaction time. You know, whatever it is.
One up will become the king of one-day tournaments.
Maybe one up one day. Interesting. Yeah. Look, I don't know. It's we'll see if maybe they can give us some actual insight outside of them just being trash and old from Gunner. But
Did you guys play them much in your sort of the back half of the tournament for yourself?
I think we versed them maybe a couple times, but I think what really happened was like Aftershock didn't start very high either, and we kind of did like one of these ones.
Yeah.
And just like the way the draws panned out, I think I only remember versing them twice. One was that green game where they had the really heavy D, and then I think I remember one time as well where they were red maybe, and if I'm not mistaken, they also had a pretty heavy D, like 3 defenders, and then usually at least one more in the sweep as well, being really annoying at red. I don't remember how those games panned out, but yeah, I can't really comment on the big drop.
Gunnar points out that there was not a lot in the way of competition points, and I remember that from the back half, like the bottom like 6 from like 20th to like 15th was also similar. Like there was like 1 or 2 competition points different between those 5 or 6 spots, which means just one rubbish game or a second where you should have got a first, and suddenly you've dropped 3 or 4 places because the average score and things like that. So yeah, not having a captain doesn't help strat mid game, and we don't get to train, and we're versing teams who train like 3 times a week. So yeah, fair enough. Look, it's almost sounding like excuses there at that point, but they're pretty decent.
Yeah, no, I guess they're not being able to. The one-up boys not being able to train is rough for sure. Also just old. Yeah, I guess not being able to train and also just not being able to play team games. That bit at the top end where I think Ivo put it before, where like we were talking before about how teams placed way too much emphasis on the macro strategies, especially like lower end or like development teams, and they kind of ignore the fundamentals and stuff. The way Ivo put it is that the strategy is the difference maker between 2 teams that are like relatively equal on skill level and like stronger fundamentals. And I think not being able to train team games, especially like, if we look at Queensland, where they've when they do play team games, they've got like some of the best teams like in the world that they get to play against, right? And learning, or like just having that constant exposure of like adjusting to things on the fly mid game, and that strategy element when everyone is so good. Yeah, definitely lacking. So I guess that could explain a bit of it. On top of them being old and getting tired towards the end of the tournament, is at the start of the tournament when less like teams haven't figured out the arenas as much. One-ups like sheer
years of experience,
just like years of experience and just like general talent and skills and stuff is more important. But then as you get to the end of the tournament, at that pointy end where all the teams are quite good, that's when the strategies do matter. So that's probably a fair assessment. Have you guys got anything else you'd like to say about One-Up?
I wish I had
time. I don't know.
Yeah. I wish I had more to say. They just rolled us every single time. I'm seeing a trending pattern here though with everything that I have to say. So maybe can I get 10 reps of Coolbeans saying they rolled us? Good man. Good man.
Look, it was good fun playing One-Up, like genuinely. And while I was sad that we got pipped by them in the last game, and I think it was pretty close actually in the end. Someone's going to point out in the chat, I'm sure, whether or not I'm right or wrong there. But yeah, it was good fun games against them.
It's that simple.
Like 150 points, I think. Yeah, it was close, wasn't it? which makes kudos to the guys for getting there. But I'm super proud of my new kids for for almost pipping them.
Happy days. All right. Who is your MVP, everyone?
I want to pick Snake.
Why?
Yeah.
Not to say it's a bad pick.
Yeah.
I'm just give us
That's
some
actually the
insight.
wrong
That's
pick.
fair.
Choose someone else.
Justify your pick.
I didn't mean to say why so aggressively.
Almost higher spaces. No. Second, third. Don't know. Just feel like it. I didn't really play against them much, so.
Yeah, sure. It's because
Not
he's a
much.
cool ass bloke.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the nicest people in Zone. That's a good enough reason for me. Happy days. Nickel, who's your pick?
I'm gonna just sort of for the shit Crouchy, because like I feel like looking at the statistical line, he got cheated. He should have been the top. Not quite, but
Yeah.
Lots of fun. Snake's lovely, and again that last line is Snake and Guinea. And good to fun have chats with them and actually chat about things from a decade ago. But Crouchy was fun to play against. So as was Gunner.
Just all the boys. The boys.
Everyone's MVP. Everyone wins.
Uh,
We're
my
gonna trade a
pick-
bunch against them now as well. So
Yeah. My pick's gonna be Gunner. Even though he's getting on a bit, he's still able to get some pretty damn good stat lines there. And at a 1.6 base average with only being denied 0.9 average that's pretty good. You know what I mean? That's obviously perfect would be like a 2 base average and a 0 denied, but that's honestly not far off. So kudos. That's why I got that shirt. So true. I should have worn it for the stream. I'm sorry, guys.
I can't give Gunner prop 6. I don't think Gunner's actually that much older than me, and he's making these excuses. So
Is he even older than you?
oh geez, if he says no, then
I'm pretty sure Gunner's not even that old. Yeah, he's full of shit, bro. You are not 25 though. That's you're not 25. You wish you were 25.
Yeah.
It's actually really hard to pick. Interesting. You are not a 98 baby. That is a lie.
I'm not 98, baby. Look, I have a 9 and an 8 in my birthday. I'm not a 98, baby. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Hold up. Gunner is not 25. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'll do that off stream. I don't believe it, but I'll do it off stream. Anyway. Cool. Runt behind the scenes has done some things. Here we go. So here was the predictions that so we have the LSA final predictions and then mine, Brock's, Wax's, and Runt's predictions. And we have like this little predictions game. So I believe the way this works is the closer your prediction, the low. It's like golf. It's golf. Right? So like the number is like how many spots off you were. So like 0 would be like you predicted that team perfectly. And as we can see, my Archangel's 12th pick stings. Same for Wax. That stings real hard. But what we had, I was even with LSA ones. Runt literally only put this together so he could show that he had the closest predictions. You are a little gremlin, mate. Look at me. Get out of here, bro. Whatever. Well, there it is if you want to see it.
I mean, Wax did okay, except for a couple where he was way off.
Yeah, Wax has got a lot of zeros in his.
Oh, it's to the right. Never mind. The LSA final predictions were screwed. My Archangel's pick is okay. The final one for them was messed up. Still, I suck at this, bro. I'm actually dog water at predicting. Bloody hell! Don't get me. If we start doing like a gambling picks for teams, don't take my advice. No matter what for.
I think, interestingly enough, like despite the discrepancies between yourself, Firebird, Wax, and Run, LSA's one, outside of the couple of obviously outliers like Archangels, which did things that no one expected them to do, the LSA ones actually didn't, they were only one off for the vast majority of with a couple of outliers.
Yeah.
With the Sharkies and Olympus.
Yeah.
And Archangels, obviously. The Archangels one throw it out pretty hard.
Yeah, but pretty almost spot on for the other ones.
So, yeah.
These predictions are worth something.
Yeah.
Make sure you.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, good man.
And it's always good to see teams climb. Like, you want to see them do better than what they're predicted. So...
yeah.
For the teams moving up, it's not a bad thing.
I don't have anything else to say. I'm tired, guys. Speaking of getting old, my goodness, I think it's like I've got like the ring light that's just like blasting me in my eyes the whole time. It makes my eyes really bloody.
These streams are exhausting. So much to think
about. They are
about.
Exhausting.
Gotta think about what to yap about. Think about remembering back to a month ago.
That's the hardest bit.
Yeah.
That's the hardest bit. Okay. We're going to wrap it up there, everyone. I'm going to stop sharing. Boom. Okay. It's just us now. Hello. Do I have any announcements? If you missed it, the top half review stream, so 11th to first place, will be featuring Firebird, Runt, maybe Wax, and myself. They'll be joining me again because they did the predictions as well. That'll be on Friday next week, 7 p.m. So be there or be not cool. Your choice. Your choice. I leave that in your hands.
When's the Nats prediction stream?
Now you'd hope I would have organized that by now, but I haven't. That is on my agenda for next week, is to organize when the prediction stream will be. Yeah, it's hard. So the reason that's hard is obviously we have this week for this. Next week is the top half.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks after that, I leave for Japan for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And then I'm back for 1 week, and then I go to Nats. So I'm either going to have to squeeze it in those 2 weeks in between the last review stream and me leaving for Japan, or the 1 week between me coming back from Japan and then going to the Nationals.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. What might end up happening is I get Butzer to fill in for the prediction stream as well. It's on my agenda to figure that out next week, but we'll have some dates and everything for everyone. But no, Nickel or Coolbeans, have you got any last things you would like to say before we move on?
Fun comp, good laser tag.
It's a fun comp.
Yeah.
The pre-nets 3 every year just gets crazier and crazier. Just like the quality of teams is quality of teams across the board is only going up. It's very cool and fun and nice. Nico, have you got any like local? I know you do lots of local comps and stuff. Have you got any on the horizon at all? Or
so we have a local one coming up in
the 11th of May.
11th of May. Thank you. So that's the Mother's Day comp. So we've got a small one there. I think that's it before Nats. We announced it on the the state championship, state comp page. I'll get that right finally. We will run and I won't go into it any further here, but we are going to run a Worlds format tournament, not dissimilar to Hobart, at the start of October. So for those that want to participate, regardless of whether or not you're going to Worlds or not. So if you've never played the Worlds format, it's a bit different. So, yeah. I think that's it for now. But the staff might decide to run something in between those two. But it's a lot of ways the back half of this year for our site.
Yeah, 100%. No worries. Thank you very much, Coolbeans and Nickel, for joining me. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and for those of you that stuck around to the end. I'm gonna go to bed and watch more of the Fallout TV series, and I'll see you all next week. Boom.